The ground shivers, not with the familiar tread of mammoth, but with a deep, gut-churning tremor from within the earth itself. It is a growl that travels through the soles of the feet, up the spine, and settles as a cold stone in the belly. The clan of Homo heidelbergensis freezes. The hunter, his arm cocked back to drive a wooden spear into the flank of a trapped giant deer, holds the pose. The women, scraping hides with flint, look up from their work, their hands stained with fat and blood. Even the children, chasing each other through the tall grass near the river, fall silent. All eyes turn to the horizon, to the jagged blue peaks that have always been their silent, unmoving guardians. Today, one of them breathes fire. A column of blackness, shot through with veins of incandescent red, punches a hole in the sky. It rises with impossible speed, a monstrous tree of smoke and rock growing from the world's root. The sound follows moments later, a physical blow that flattens the grass and drips leaves from the trees. It is not a sound to be heard, but a force to be endured. For these ancient humans, there is no frame of reference. This is not weather. This is not a base. This is the sky itself being torn open. This is a moment that will be seared into the deep memory of hominid history. For a full day, they watch in a state of terrified awe. The pillar of smoke spreads, the great, dark hand blotting out the sun, turning the brilliant afternoon into a bruised, ominous twilight. Then, the fallout begins. It is not rain, it is not snow, it is a gentle, persistent dusting of fine, grey powder. It coats every leaf, every stone, every strand of hair. It is weightless, yet it carries the weight of a world ending. The old one, whose face is a roadmap of droughts and hard winters, scoops a pinch from a broad leaf. He rubs it between his calloused fingers. It is grutty. Sure, he tastes it, his expression unreadable. Then spits a grey paste onto the ground. His gaze sweeps over his clan. A silent community bound by lineage and the harsh necessities of prehistoric life. He sees the fear in their eyes. A primal terror of a world suddenly rendered alien. This is not a storm to be waited out. His foresight, a critical spark in the long arc of human evolution, tells him this. He rises, a single, sharp grunt cutting through the frightened silence. He points not to the sky, but to their shelter, a deep, defensible overhang of rock. Then he points to the half-butchered deer, to the pile of sharpened spears, to the carefully stacked bundles of firewood. The command needs no words. Abandon the hunt. Forget the hides. Bring only what gives life food, tools, and fire. The clan moves, a confused but obedient organism. The hunters drag the heavy carcass. The women gather the children and the precious, smoldering embers from their hearth, shielding them in a cage of clay and moss. They are early humans facing a force beyond their comprehension, and their only defense is their collective will as they retreat into the gloom of their shelter. The sun, now a weak, blood-red smear behind the thickening veil, finally vanishes. Midday becomes night. The air grows cold. The grey snow falls, and falls, and falls, blanketing the world in a shroud of silence and ash. The world outside the overhang does not return. Days bleed into a grey, featureless twilight, a perpetual dawn that never breaks. The cold is a living thing, a predator that seeps through their stitched hide cloaks and settles deep in their bones. The last of the deer is gone, dogged down to the marrow. The children no longer cry. They huddle with a listless, terrifying silence. The vibrant ecosystem they once commanded is now a graveyard under a blanket of ash. The river is a sluggish, grey slurry. The trees are skeletal, their leaves choked and fallen. There is no bird song. There is no buzz of insects. There is only the ceaseless, whispering descent of powder and the moan of a wind that carries no scent of rain or prey. Resource scarcity is no longer a seasonal challenge. It is the absolute, suffocating state of existence. The Old One knows the inertia of despair is a current that will pull them all under. They are consuming the last of their stored nuts and roots. But the fire, their shield against the dark, eats relentlessly at their woodpile. Soon it, too, will die, and the cold will comfort them in their sleep. 8 choices made, not with the council's debate, but with the shared, silent understanding of the abyss. To stay is to be buried. To move is to walk into the teeth of the storm. They choose the storm. The decision is an act of collective will against a universe that has turned its back on them. Each adult carries a burden. The strongest hunters carry the precious fire embers and the last of their heavy spears. Their points fashioned with the meticulous Leveluvi's technique. A sophisticated skill for a world that no longer offers targets. The women carry the youngest children in the water skins, now filled with gritty, ash-thickened water. They step out into the alien landscape. The world of prehistory has become a monochrome nightmare. The ash is ankle-deep, muffling their footfalls, so they move like ghosts through a silent film. The familiar landmarks are gone, smoothed over and erased by the grey tide. They are navigating by memory, by the ghost of a landscape that lives only in their minds. The young hunter, his face gaunt, sees the old one stumble. Without a sound, he moves to the elder's side, offering a strong shoulder. It is not a grand gesture. It is a simple, instinctual act of preservation. A flicker of humanity in the face of oblivion. The clan is no longer a collection of individuals. It is a single, slow-moving organism, and if one part fails, the whole may perish. Their ancient survival skills are being stripped away one by one, leaving only their reliance on each other. They walk for what feels like an eternity. A thin, dark line of human ancestors against a canvas of infinite grey. They pass the remains of Pleistocene megafauna, a great bison, its shaggy coat matted with ash, frozen solid on its feet before it toppled. There are no scavengers. Even the agents of decay have been vanquished. This is the new geology, a future concern for the field of paleontology. For the clan, it is a terrifying omen. This is a world where even death has stopped. As the perpetual twilight deepens into what must be another night, they find a meager shelter in a shallow ravine. They huddle together, sharing the last reserves of body heat, their faces illuminated by the faint, desperate glow of the protected embers. They are adrift in a dead ocean, and the shore is nowhere in sight. The fire dies. It is not a sudden event, but a slow, pitiable fading. The last ember, nurtured for days across the ashen plains, cools from orange to red, from red to a dead, mocking black. With its passing, a different code enters their small huddle, a code of the soul. An old woman, the clan's weaver of stories, does not rise. She has given her last share of gritty water to her grandchild and now lies still, a grey statue among the living. They cannot mourn. Mourning is a luxury that requires warmth and a full belly. They have neither. This moment, stark and silent, is the true nadir of their journey through the long dark, a footnote in the vast, unwritten volumes of ancient history. It is the young hunter who first lifts his head. His senses, honed by a lifetime of tracking prey, are not dead, only starved. He catches something on the wind, not the sterile scent of ash, but a sharp, acrid smell, sulfur, the smell of a rotten egg, of the earth's foul breath. He grunts, a weak sound, and points a trembling finger into the gloom. The old one rises, his joints cracking. He sniffs the air, his eyes closed. In his long life, he has never smelled this. But it is something, in a world of absolute nothing. Any signal is a potential lifeline. He makes the last choice he may ever have the strength to make. He turns the clan, this tattered remnant of humanity, and leads them toward the strange scent. They walk for hours, a funeral procession drawn by a thread of hope. The ground beneath their feet begins to change. It becomes warm. Steam begins to ghost from the ash, melting it into a dark, wet slush. And then they see it. Below them, a shallow valley, a wound in the earth's skin, from fissures and cracks. Plumes of white steam rise into the grey air, holding the endless fallout at bay. Patches of the ground are bare, steaming, and along the edges of bubbling, muddy pools grows a strange, vibrant green moss. It is not their old world. It is a hostile, alien place, a landscape shaped by geothermal vents. But it is raw, and it is alive. Their descent is clumsy, desperate. The warmth envelops them, a shocking, blissful sensation that brings tears to their eyes. For the first time in weeks, the shivering in their limbs begins to subside. But survival here requires a complete reinvention. The Argon spears are useless. There are no deer, no horses. This is a world for the small and the strange. This is where their intelligence, the legacy of their evolution from forebears like Australopithecus and Homo habilis, becomes their only weapon. Using their sharp-edged ancient tools, they learn. This is primitive technology in its rawest form. They use flakes of flint to scrape the protein-rich algae from the warm stones. They use their heavy acetylene hand axes not for butchering, but as hammers to crack open the shells of bizarre snails cooked in the near-boiling puddles. They observe which insects the pale, blind spiders of this valley eat, and they follow suit. They have become scavengers of a geothermal wasteland. Their survival a testament to the adaptability that is the hallmark of the human line. It is a brutal, meager existence, a far cry from the lives of the great hunters they once were, but it is life, huddled by a hissing fumarole, chewing on unfamiliar food. The 15 survivors of a clan that once numbered 50 watched the grace no fall outside their grim sanctuary. They have not won. They have simply endured. From our vantage point, looking back across the chasm of time, we see them not as heroes, but as desperate castaways on a planetary shore. This small band of Homo heidelbergensis, huddled in their sulphurous haven, represents one of the countless bottlenecks in human evolution. Their story, buried under layers of volcanic tuff, becomes a whisper for future archaeology to uncover. Their survival was not an epic of strength against a monster, but a quiet, grueling victory of the mind. They were forced to abandon every tradition, every proven skill, and innovate or die. In that steaming, toxic valley, they laid a cornerstone of the human spirit, the profound ability to adapt. Their struggle was a stark reminder that our species, including the eventual rise of Homo sapiens, was not forged in gardens of plenty, but in the crucible of catastrophe. Their desperate acts of cooperation and intellectual grit became the inheritance for every generation that followed, an instinct for survival written not in our muscles, but in the intricate folds of our brains. Their ordeal poses a question that echoes down to our own age of unprecedented comfort and power. When our sun is next veiled, by forces of nature or of our own making, we will remember how to find life in the cracks. This is the chronicler. The earth keeps its own counsel, and we are but fleeting listeners to its oldest tales. What happens when the greatest threat comes not from the world, but from within the clan itself?